Knowing Show. I am so happy to be here with my friend and just an incredible human being, Cletus Coffey. I'm so happy to have you. Thank you for joining us.
Christine, are you kidding me? I'm so grateful that I get to join you on the Knowing Show here. And I tell you, I want to recognize you for a second because you could have titled this the Hoping Show, the Wishing Show, the Praying Show, but you did it the Knowing Show. And that's near and dear to my heart. So well done.
Mm, thank you, Cletus. I'm so excited because one, I've met you along the way. We've had various conversations. This is the first one where we're diving deep into your story in a way that is so. I'm so excited for what people are going to glean from this because you have lived a life with so many ups and downs that frankly it's you were born for storytelling in a way because of your own experience, and you've really alchemized it. And yesterday I actually talked about how to alchemize the broken parts and how to make a story from it in a way that really allows for us to shine. And so what I'm excited to talk most about with you today is we have a culture and a generation and a world where so many people are living void of hope, void of love for themselves. And we're so fixated on the external that so many of us haven't done the work to go internal. And then when we do, we don't like what we see. So it's actually safer and easier to maintain that horizontal external fixation lest we go inward and encounter the truth. So what I'd love to talk to you about today, and this is why I'm so excited to have this conversation, is because you have done the work to go inward and address what's inside and kind of square off with the pain, because you've had a lot of pain from in your early childhood in certain ways, and then also disappointments throughout your life, and also these beautiful, incredible peaks. So tell us your story, and how did you kind of learn to come to love who you are?
Oh my gosh, amazing. Well, thank you for the opportunity to be able to share my story. And Christine, probably the best place to start is sports.
Mm.
And as a young man, I grew up in Northern California. I grew up to a single mother of five children. And
What a queen.
yeah, and my mother, just bless her heart, she is a driven, a 4'11", the colonel, and she was extremely successful in her line of work. She moved us to California when I was little, and she started in the ER working as a nurse. Got her
Mm,
master's degree, moved all up to the point where she then managed five hospitals in Northern
wow.
California. And so she was an incredible beacon of drive and just get it done. And
Mhm.
my dad, who his family had a long lineage of alcohol, and he
Mm.
fell into that same line, and he had to go take care of himself during my formative years.
Mhm.
And by the grace of God, he's now 38 years sober, and I'm so
Wow.
happy for him.
Yes.
That's all. My parents got divorced. They're actually remarried now. That's a whole nother story we can talk
Oh
about.
my gosh.
So yeah, so it's I'm the oldest and the only boy in the family, and we went
Mm.
through a lot of turmoil. My dad being out of the house, my mother had a child when I was 12. She passed away at 3 weeks old. We then
Wow.
My parents had another daughter, which was their fifth child, who was born with a congenital heart defect, and
Mm.
ultimately succumbed to that at the age of 17. So my
Oh my
parents
god.
lost two children. We lost two siblings. And all the while, sports just kept me focused. I was a three-sport athlete in high school,
Mm.
two-sport athlete in college. And it was just, that was my outlet. That was my place to just uh, block out the rest of the world and just do me.
Yes.
And And then I was faced with this unique scenario where I was a senior in college. I didn't go to a big powerhouse football school or by any means, but I was just thinking like, I can't let this end because I need
Mm.
another season. Like, that is my safe place. So I threw my hat in the ring and did some networking and ended up finding myself earning a signed a contract to go play in the Canadian Football League,
Oh,
which
cool.
then turned into the late 90s, early 2000s, the Arena Football League. And I was this professional athlete, which was always my dream as a young person, be a pro
Mm.
athlete. And so, like most athletes, your career never ends when you want it to. It's usually because you're injured, or at least when you get into the business of sports, it's when they don't want you anymore. So, yeah, 4 years in, I ended up breaking my leg, which was my first real major injury I'd ever had, and my career was over. So now I'm 27 years old, looking around, going, "All right, I got a resume that says degree in football player. What the heck do I
Wow.
do?"
Yes.
And that began a path of, I had so many highs because, again, I'm growing in my teens and my 20s. It was kind of a hockey stick of success as an athlete. Now I'm in the real world. It's a new game, and 80% of my life I had been an athlete up until that point, and now I'm not, and that's all I identified with. And so now it's like, okay, who am I? But I didn't know to ask that question. It was, oh, you're an athlete. Why don't you just go and this was really the two routes they would give us as athletes: get into coaching or get into sales.
Mm,
And I had seen my coaches. I had seen the challenges and the life challenges a lot of them had. A lot of them were drunk a lot of the time. A lot of them had disconnected from their families. And
mm.
so, because they would, especially in the sport of football, because it's very consuming. And the life of a football coach is not, it's difficult to be a healthy one. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people do make it healthy. Don't get me wrong. So I didn't want to go that route. So I got into sales and I sucked. I just wasn't very good. And mainly because in my athletic space, when I would walk into the room, people would want to come talk to me. Oh, I saw
Right.
you on ESPN. Oh, I want to kind of get tickets to the game. They want to come talk to me. I didn't develop the muscle to show up and say, oh, tell me about you. And
Mm.
so I got into sales, which is tell me about you, tell me about your challenges, tell me your issues. It's hey, just
Yes.
come by for me. That was my unconscious programming that was coming through, and so I just wasn't very good. I didn't like it.
Mm.
I struggled job to job, bounced around until I got a taste of entrepreneurship, and that felt like being an athlete again.
Yes. Tell me about that. The how did that feel like being an athlete again?
Yeah, I tell you what, it wasn't my first stab at trying to be an athlete again. At the age of 35, you can. I was a decathlete in track and field in college as well.
Mm.
And so at the age of 35, you can actually compete on the world level in masters track and field. And so
Oh.
I was struggling, like, what am I going to do? I started training. I started doing well. I went, competed in the world championships, won a gold medal. And I'm like, I'm back. I'm back being me again. Only problem is it's all for fun. It's a hobby. You don't make any money. Entrepreneurship was that same thing. It was the same. I could step in, put the training on my shoulders. I could create, innovate. I was uh, able to kind of take it, mold it how I wanted to be, and the autonomy behind it. I just felt like being that
Yes.
athlete again, and it was. I'm a competitor, so I'm like, yeah, I want to compete. I want to grow something. I want to be competitive. So that's where entrepreneurship came in. The challenge was, Christine, I didn't know any entrepreneurs. My parents weren't. I didn't know anything about business. So I started my first business and I was a terrible business owner. And this is where my first challenges came in because I didn't have any clients. I didn't have any money. I had this idea. I started a business, leased an office, thinking that people would want to come to see me at an office. I was in the financial space. And uh, then ultimately, also what would happen was I would go into these networking events with that same athlete mindset. And so I'd show up and say, I've got this business, everybody. And I was too afraid to tell people that I was just starting, that I didn't have any clients, that I needed help. And then I would show up as how I thought they would want me to show up. And so I'd go to these networking events or meet with people or get connected, and I wouldn't get any business.
Mm.
And so that started a very big pattern of lying, not
Mm.
showing up as myself, showing up as I've got it put together. I know what I'm doing. And so the mindset of others was like, oh, he's got it put together. He doesn't need
Mm.
help. He doesn't need clients because I didn't want to show up as weak as from starting at the bottom. I just wanted to be
Yes.
right to the top. And
Mm.
ultimately, what this did was it brought me back to the sports stage, which on the sports stage, I needed to show up perfect on the field. Because if
Right.
I didn't, I got yanked out of the game.
Right.
And
Wow.
so, and then I, sat on a bench or lost playing time, and then I'm embarrassed, and so I couldn't show up anything other than perfect on the playing field of business and in
Mm.
life. Compound that with the scoreboard.
Mm.
I had been taught very early on that what's most important are the results on the scoreboard. And I'll,
Wow.
I'll prove it to you because, I mean, think about it. As a young person comes in from a game, and let's say your parent or guardian or someone was not at the game, what's the first question they ask you if they didn't
Did
go?
you win?
Did you win? Which is
Yeah.
something I couldn't control. And
Mm.
so what I begin to
Wow. What a
do,
good point.
yeah. And so what I
Wow.
did is identified with the scoreboard. If I did well on the scoreboard, I felt good about myself. If I didn't do well, what's wrong with me?
Wow.
And that came over into business.
Right.
Identified with Cletus was only good and is only good enough if he landed some business and the business
Wow.
was doing well. And so my self-worth and my identity were tied with the scoreboard.
Mm.
And that is a very, very tough place to be. Anxiety, stress, worry, depression, because I am valuing myself based on something I could not control.
Wow, and how many of us do that? So, I mean, honestly, I do that so often. The way that you related our self-worth and identity with business and with the scoreboard, I'm as successful as the scoreboard represents. And each one of us has a scoreboard in our lives. You had a physical scoreboard of the playing field, but so many of us have that for our business. And even honestly, it could even be in motherhood, staying home with the kids,
Absolutely.
you know? Wow.
Absolutely. Likes, follows, shares. I mean, it's like we're inundated with this scoreboard,
Mm.
and we value our self based on what happens there, and we can't control it. We can only
Mhm.
show up and put forth the effort and work. And the scoreboard.
Wow.
In fact, there's a Hall of Fame football coach, Bill Walsh. He actually wrote a book about it. I'm going to butcher the title a little bit, but basically the concept is the scoreboard will take care of itself.
Mm.
You show up, you do the work, the scoreboard will take care of itself. Now, I was showing up, but I wasn't showing up as Cletus Coffey. I was showing up as a version of how I wanted other people to see me in my business, in my relationships.
Mm.
So I ended up doing what I thought every man should do. I bought a house, I met a woman, decided we want to have kids, we got married, had kids, the white picket fence. We had that. Problem
Yes.
was, I got into all that not as me. I
Mm.
got into it as a version of what I thought society or what this woman wanted me to be. And
Mm.
so no wonder why and compound with the fact was I didn't have the courage to say something and to say, hey, that's not what I want, or that's not, because I just was so focused on, I want to please, I want to show up how others want me to show up. And it was eating me alive. And I didn't know it. And B, I didn't know to even ask for help. I didn't even know
Right.
to say, I'm hurting. I'm
Chill.
lost.
Wow.
So 2009 and 2010 come, which the big recession here in the US, my business, I mean, instantly wiped off the map, gone. And so now I am, I've just had our second child, and I've got two young children, and the country's in this recession. And I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to start. I'm in the fetal position, and because I just lost everything, I got creditors calling me like crazy, and I'm thinking I'm this bad guy. I'm terrible. I just the internal dialogue of not worthy and just I'm a bad guy. Just all that was playing, and then the outside world confirmed it.
Wow. Can you tell me what that means? Is it because it confirmed it because you lost clients?
So it confirmed because I was showing up with that energy. My level of frequency was so down in shame and guilt. I feel so ashamed that I lost this business. So much so, I couldn't even tell people that it was gone. I would say something like, "Oh yeah, I'm making this pivot," or "I got this new idea going," because I just didn't want to look weak, and totally not consciously doing this. This is unconscious patterning that's coming up, and so the outside world was confirming that by not providing opportunities or the people, and in my
Yeah.
relationship, my wife at the time was very upset. She was angry. She was sad. She was scared, and I get it. And she was, coming to me with that anger and that fear, and it's on me. And she was just confirming what I already was thinking about myself, but 10 times worse.
I'm worthless. Yes. Wow.
Correct. Correct. And
Mm.
so I just shortly a year later, uh, completely disconnected in my relationship. We are two ships sailing in the night. We're just there raising kids. And I felt it was off. She knew it was off. We were, two people who said we loved each other, but we're just kind of circling, afraid to collide in a healthy way and kind of
Mm.
figure this out. And I am responsible. I didn't know how to show up and say, I need help. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm hurting. I'm scared. No worry, babe. I got it. I'm going to figure this out. I leave the door. I come back empty handed. What the
Yes.
heck is wrong with me? Uh,
Mm.
so, and it was about 2 years of this, ultimately until Christine, till I had discovered she had been having an affair during this whole process.
Wow.
And so what she ultimately ended up leaving me for
Mm.
this individual. And I mean, talk about scoreboard right there. Like that is, as a man,
Wow.
that was a really hard experience, primarily because it was so easy for me to blame, shame, and justify.
Yes.
She's a bad person. How could she have done this? Da, 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 blah, just spewing that type of very
Yes.
low energy, low frequency, not realizing that, hold on. I have to go inward. And
Mm.
so I spun in this unworthiness. Can't figure it out financially. Can't figure
Mm.
it out in my relationship. Some other guy is better than me.
Mm.
And now here I am. I'm a single dad. I got two kids and completely starting over.
Wow.
It's a dark spot to be in. I
Yeah.
was in a dark spot for
That's
sure.
such a dark spot to be in. Well, and it's so interesting how we blame others so often is a mirror for how we view ourselves at the very, very core.
Absolutely. And I was so good at that. So good at that. You know.
Yeah.
And she was just mirroring back to me, all the parts of me that were unhealed, all the parts of me that I needed to focus on, but it was just too easy to point at her. Well,
Yeah.
her morals are off. It
Yeah.
was me needing to point the finger back at myself.
Yes. Well, and that's where, man, there's such a delicate balance about this whole practice of radical responsibility. I've been talking with someone recently, and we've been discussing the need that radical responsibility is only safe in relationship where both parties are assuming that stance of both going inward to a radical level of you deal with your stuff, I'll deal with mine. And then it's okay, let's come together. This is how I plan to deal with my stuff. How do you plan to deal with yours? But if only one party is doing that, if only one party is looking in the mirror and the other person is pointing the finger. So if you were to come in and do the work on yourself while your wife is exhibiting behaviors that are not conducive to a healthy marriage, to say the least, then it is so unhealthy and unsafe for you to do that work on yourself. Both parties in a relationship have to be willing to do that inward radical, assuming the mantle of radical responsibility of the inward work.
Hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. I I know that now.
Yeah.
Back then, you couldn't have told me that.
Yeah.
Just I didn't understand it. I didn't
Yeah.
understand my my role in that. And it's
Mm,
just two people that were hurt, circling
yes,
each other, and
exactly.
and afraid to speak up and connect in that way.
Mm,
And I look back at it on such an incredible lesson. Like, I am so
mm,
grateful for that experience. I can say that now. And
mm.
it's shaped my life in ways that I never could have imagined. Those days in my new apartment, just in tears, going, "What in the heck is going on?"
Wow.
And looking back, going, "Oh my gosh, that has shaped me in such an
Yes.
amazing way." And it's a lesson. And thankfully, I took a shot at looking back and saying, What is the lesson there that I need to learn?"
Mm, and in hindsight, always we see the ashes is the very place from which we rose. Where it's like, man, look at where I am today. So, Cletus, tell me if you would. You talked a couple times about the low energy and frequency of how you viewed yourself, that then allowed for the world to kind of mirror it back to you and effectively confirm your own experience and thoughts about yourself. Can you talk a little bit more about that low energy, low frequency? What do you mean by that? Because I know what you mean in terms of having the negative thoughts and feelings about yourself, but how does that translate into the external?
Yeah. So, being energetic beings that we are, we're energy, and we have levels of. Think of it as the radio. Back in the days when we had the radio, but I guess you can Amazon, uh, Spotify. You jump in the car and you turn on a radio, and there is a frequency that is connecting your radio to the tower. Right, there are frequencies, and we as energetic beings give off a frequency. And if I am someone who I'm a reggae music fan, so I like reggae, and I turn on the radio and reggae's playing, there's a vibe, there's
Yes.
a high level connection there. If
Yes.
something that's on there that's not my style, it's like, oh, there's a disconnect there. And
Yes.
if anyone who's listening here has ever read the book Power versus Force by David Hawkins, it's such an
Mhm.
incredible book, and he talks about the levels of frequency, and he's done that. He's
Mm.
mapped it out. And those low levels of frequency, the lowest are shame and guilt and fear and anger.
Mhm.
And then you kind of work your way up into, I think it's self-realization or um,
Interesting.
love and so forth. And so we vibrate. We're energetic beings. We vibrate. And so
Yeah.
during those times, I'm vibrating as a low vessel of energy because
Mm.
I'm thinking about myself. So that's how it's emitting. That
Mhm.
frequency is emitting off of me at a very low level. And so I was
Mm.
attracting people into my life that met that low level of frequency. Prime example, I was so frustrated and angry and sad that at the end of my marriage, she had been
Yeah.
in a relationship for some time, and now I was now
So
on my own. I'm like, I just, it was almost like a payback. Like, I'm gonna go show the world that I can have. So, but I was coming from this low energy, low frequency vessel. I ended up
mm,
attracting someone in my life who was hurting, and vibrating at a similar frequency. So we connected on that level. It was the most toxic relationship of my entire life. And I was just, again, I looking at, well, this relationship, I just came out of one that I thought was the most toxic. Now this is even worse. And it's what's wrong with me? And it
wow.
brought me to such a place of like, what am I even doing here? Because I
Mm.
just keep attracting pain. And
Wow.
so we actually ended up having a child together. And so now I've got 3 children with 2 different women, and I'm going, where this was not in the cards. And it's such the red flags were all over the place, but because I was so hurting that I
Mm.
just didn't even see them. I didn't even
Yes.
know that they were flags
Mm.
until I was thinking, okay, I have to do something up for myself here. Something. So I began to do the work. And I'd been a long time study of personal growth and all that, but I was not even there. So I had to reconnect with that, kind of develop myself. As I started to raise my frequency, I started realizing I was getting these gut punches. Like, this is not
Mhm.
right. I'm not connected to my intuition. I didn't know. I started to listen. And once I started to listen, I'm thinking, I need to get out of this situation. and I need to move on. That was the rebirth of me. That was where I went all in on getting myself out of this darkness, got myself out of that relationship, and started to go all in on me and say, I'm going to start to vibrate from a higher frequency for myself, not anybody else. I have to love me first before anybody else who loves themselves can love me.
Wow. That's so good. I distinctly remember you saying that. Reminds me of a couple months after my husband had left. I was visiting my brother and his wife, and I was at their church, and this woman comes up to me and she's like, yes, I had my marriage end, and then the first relationship that I was in after my divorce was incredibly toxic. He was worse, to your point, worse than the first husband, and it was just a very narcissistic relationship that she kept attracting because of her codependency. And so she said, and so I'm excited for you to learn the most important lesson, which is to love yourself. And I was like, what? And it was so foreign, this whole concept of loving self. And why is that need? Like, why do I need to? And I've even talked with a dear friend of mine, and he's like, I don't need to love myself. I love others so well. So can you talk a little bit about that of, you said you started to raise your level of frequency, which the highest, I don't remember the highest, but I know love is pretty high up there. And so so here's the thing that's tricky. We think that we love other people, which requires a high level of frequency. But if we're living in shame for ourselves, which is a low level of frequency, we would, do we kind of work through that, especially from a male perspective, because this was a male friend who said this to me. So from a male perspective, how can a man exist in relationship with others where he's so focused on his family, so focused on caring for them, being the provider, loving, yet hold so much shame and self-hatred?
Such a good question. And I'll say this, compound that with the fact that he's showing up to the world as someone who is not going on inside. So he's showing up inauthentically, that guy who's got to be the provider, the producer, the performer, and that pressure is overwhelming. And I'll say this because I hear this a lot from men, like, yeah, I love myself. That's no, that's not what I'm talking about. We're talking about, I can go inward and love on that thought, that guilt that just came up for me because I didn't get to my child's mid-afternoon assembly because I had to take this meeting, and now I'm feeling guilty about it, and loving on that, accepting that, and working on it to get better. Just loving myself was such an important part. Loving on my broken relationships, finding the lessons, seeing the women I'd been in relationship with as teachers, as my Yoda, like you were guiding me. I needed to I came into this world needing to heal this part of me. And they were my teachers. And I took the message and I went with it, and I started to learn. And I believe that myself included, so many men live externally on the scoreboard. And society, judges us so much based on, how much money do you have? How successful is your business? What school you're sending your kids to? And there's so much of this scoreboard related pressure, and thus men identify on that. But then they're afraid to open up and talk about it. And most importantly, they're afraid to feel it. And so they're not feeling it, realizing that their health is deteriorating, that their business is consuming them, that they're and myself included, how many men whose wife comes to them and says, I want a divorce, and they go, what are you talking about? What happened? The disconnection. And I love my rubber band theory here. For men, what they think is, I'm just going to go rip down this one pillar of life, which is business and making money. The problem is all the other elements of our life is an anchor. And so we can only get so far with this anchor. We want to grow the business, but all these other elements, our health, our family, our connection to a higher power, all those things, our emotional intelligence is anchoring us. So what happens is the snapback. And the snapback usually is a health crisis, a divorce, disconnection from and estranged from our children. And so the way I like to explain is that we, in all these 5 areas of health and family and relationships and emotional intelligence, growing ourselves, connection to higher power, they all need to be growing in and around the
I
same time.
love this. This is so good, Cletus. What a good visual.
Yeah. So it's saying, hey, I need to pay attention to my health. I got to pay
Yeah.
attention to my relationship. I got to pour into that. The
Mm.
challenge is for men is they haven't poured in themselves first. And so, the
Yeah.
whole airplane analogy, loss of cabin pressure, put the mask on yourself first. And the men want to be the champions. They want to be the heroes. We want to go and I'm going to protect and save my family, but you're not protecting and saving yourself. And so I really feel I see it so many times for myself and for men is we're cheating our loved ones. We're cheating our children, our partners, our customers, because we're not showing up as our true authentic selves. We're showing up as the version of what they want us to be, the provider, the producer, the masculine leader. And yes, we can have those things. And we're human beings and we have feelings and we have to love on those things so that we can show up and not be predicated on what the scoreboard says.
Mm.
So my business isn't going well. That I get it. I want to be better, but it's not a reflection of who I am as a man.
Mm.
So it's loving ourselves first. And when we do that, what the outside world does is out of our control. We can't control that. But I can show up as me. And by
Mm.
doing that, that vibration, that frequency begins to attract the right people, the right opportunities into our
Right.
life that match the love I have for myself. For example, I was thinking, all right, I want to get back in the dating world. I want to start meeting people. But what I did was I went and dated myself first. Sounds
Oh,
corny, but
no. I love
I would go
that.
out to dinner on my own. I'd take a little we'd go camping or go take a little vacation, just with me, because I
Mm.
want to be able to love doing that with myself and for me.
What did
And
that do for you, Cletus? Like how did you transform the way that you showed up for you? And then how did that impact the relationship after?
yeah, so it was once I made, and this was back, gosh, like 2018, 2019, I started a podcast.
Hmm.
And this was my first crack at doing something kind of that's when I first got into digital marketer and kind of how, we
Yeah.
kind of all circled around. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to create a chance of creating some content. What I did was I said, I'm going to try something for the first time. I'm going to start to tap into vulnerability.
Mm.
And I'm going to express it. The biggest fear was putting it out there, saying something into the world that was about me personally. And so I started to do that, and it started to pick up some steam. But it wasn't even about the podcast; it was about me finding my unlocking freedom in me, which is to be vulnerable
Wow.
and share with others. I'm hurting. I don't know where I'm at. I'm scared. What am I doing here? And being able to ask for help, especially other men. And that was a big one. Because I tell you what, Christine, I looked around and I took a step back and I looked and I was like, oh my gosh, 5 of my closest friends were divorced, entrepreneurs or high level executives, single fathers.
Wow. Oh my
Men
God.
isolate, business owners, entrepreneurs isolate, single father, divorced, isolate. The embarrassment, the shame, the tough guy, I got this. This demographic of people, myself included, isolate. We don't talk about it. My
Mm.
5 friends, we didn't talk about anything other than what's that crazy woman doing now? Just low level, low frequency stuff. We weren't saying like, hey man, how you doing, brother? I know it's
Yes.
hard making dinner for the kids, carting them, or when they're not there, missing them. We just didn't talk about
Mm.
that. And that bothered me. I want to
Yes.
talk about that stuff. So to answer your question, long-windedly, but I needed to get connected with what was real for me and being comfortable with talking about that. And by doing so, I thought it was a weakness. It became my biggest strength to be able to show up authentically and being vulnerable, sharing. knowing, connecting with my feelings first and foremost as a man, and then be able to share them. I feel, I don't know why I didn't want taught this early on. Like, it's just,
Yes.
especially for men, that's not what we're taught. And
No.
so, having two sons now, I want to be an example of what is possible for them, and then be able to support them and teach them that this is a path to masculine strength.
Mm, I love it, man. It's so exciting hearing you talk, and even your examples of like going camping by yourself, taking yourself out to dinner, and then how the time that you spent in terms of just getting to know what you even think. How are you doing? Then you are connected with the truth to then be able to go and share it with the other dads and your friends. But until you had done that work to go inward first, and often it's alone or with a therapist, because like knows like. So it's hard for you to be able to go and lead in that friendship capacity if you haven't done the work first to begin with.
Mhm.
And that's where in relationship. So I want to talk about how this manifests now in your relationship today, because one
Mhm.
of the things that I think is so interesting, I've actually been kind of mulling over this over the last week and a half. So if we meet our partner, or let's just say a partner, whether you're married or just dating, you meet your partner and you're both at a similar frequency. Let's say you're out of shame, you're in a healthier frequency, but the goal is that we continue to level up. So we're in a similar frequency. We attracted them, they attracted us. We're doing well, yet we continuously want to grow. Is it almost okay, let's go be alone, grow, and then come back together, and we're hopefully both leveling up in a similar way? And by going away and being alone, I mean like early mornings or taking a weekend out of the month to just go do the work. How do you ensure that you're continuously leveling up, but then also your partner's doing the same thing? So it's effectively a bringing up, climbing the rungs of the ladder together. Because if you do attract the same frequency, it would make sense then that as you level up your frequency, they would have to level up as well, and vice versa. And it could go also for the same of you attract the same frequency. So you would stay lateral where you are rather than moving upward. So how do you combat that today?
I cannot expect anyone else to love me unless I love me first.
Mhm.
And I just kept pushing that focus, that I just need to, whatever that looks like. I just started with that. And whatever that looks like, I don't know. I just know that I can't expect anyone to do it if
Yes.
I'm not doing it for myself. And so by doing that, what ended up happening is, I was not interested. Like, once I got out there, just kind of dating myself and kind of hanging out, I'm like, I like that. I got my time with my kids. I like my free time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there really wasn't any desire anymore to go out and meet someone. And
Mhm.
I'm growing my business. I'm going like this. This is cool.
Mm.
And I kept thinking, like, you know what? I didn't get on any dating apps. I didn't do any of that. I just thought
Mm.
if the right opportunity, the right person, the right frequency, like it'll connect. And yeah, sure enough, I was actually at a business mastermind, and I met a woman, and we just kind of were like accountability partners just through the work
Mm.
that we were doing. And there wasn't any, obviously very attractive woman. There was a connection there, but it wasn't anything other than a year's worth of like, hey, how you doing? Checking in. What's the business like? Da, da,
Yes.
da. And but what I uncovered about this person was this woman loved herself
Wow.
so much. There
Mm.
wasn't any uh, grasping for anything, not pushing for anything. There was just, she just loved herself. And she was
Mm.
so solid and grounded in who
Mm.
she was that it just didn't, nothing else mattered. None of the pretentiousness, like there was nothing about it other
Yeah.
than someone loved herself.
Yeah.
And so it was just a journey of, okay, there's something there. And this was, gosh, just, I think I've been dating her almost 2 years now. And
Mm.
it's just, it was like she was mirroring back to me the work and the love that I did on myself.
Wow. That's so honestly, it's so exciting. It's like knowing that's possible, you know?
Absolutely. It is absolutely
Mm.
possible because I wasn't chasing anything, which, a lot of men drop into their feminine. They want to chase things. I was just growing myself and just being solid and grounded and loving myself. And I happened to meet someone that met me there. And it
Mm.
wasn't like I had to pull her up. I didn't have to teach her. Like I learned so much from her every single day.
Yeah.
And to your point, kind of your example of like meeting her there, that same energy,
Mm.
I look at her and recognize just how much she loves herself and
Mm.
who she is, and her peace and her groundedness reflects back to me how much I love myself. And thus
Mm.
then we can come together as healed individuals
Mhm.
that can still, meet each other and heal together, because there's still
Mhm.
stuff that we all have.
Mhm.
It is
Mhm.
possible. It is possible. You go inward first, it's possible.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, I love this conversation. You mentioned something that made me curious. Um, you mentioned you didn't drop into your feminine to go chase something, and I actually
Mm,
wanted to bring this up earlier, so this is perfect. When you were talking about, the masculine role, the provider, being a strong man, all of those things that are so important and such beautiful qualities, there is a big difference between male and female and then masculine and feminine. When we think about, you said, I can be a strong man, but I'm still human. And so thus we need to love ourselves and take care of ourselves. I actually have found that that's right when the feminine comes in, because the feminine is more so the nurturing, the caring archetype. And then the masculine is the organized, the provider, the getting things done. I kind of liken the feminine to the EQ, emotional intelligence side of the brain, and then the masculine to the IQ, the intellectual intelligence side of the brain. And so both of those parts of our brains need to be activated. Both of those parts of us need to be activated for us to then be a full-fledged human. And so then there are knowing and understanding the weaknesses, like, okay, what does the feminine look like in a lower frequency, which could be chasing and grasping? What does the masculine look like in a lower frequency? And understanding what both of those look like, high and low, as kind of almost like a self barometer.
mm,
Let me go do an audit, look in the mirror. Which parts of me are being activated? And is one really less? It sounds like you've really worked to cultivate the feminine, actually, which is the loving yourself and caring for yourself. But then you also equally know when that gets into a danger zone, which is grasping and chasing and controlling, perhaps.
mhm. Yeah, no, I tell you what, energetically, I was just in a whole jumble in that
Mhm.
I didn't know how to drop into my feminine. I
Mm,
really didn't know how to lead as a masculine. And
mm,
I had never seen it. My father wasn't around. I didn't see a man lead. I saw a woman lead. My mother has very masculine qualities. She is a driver. She is a very successful in business and the work that she does. And so she has more of those qualities. And I attracted more masculine women in my life. And no wonder why there was a disconnect. I'm going because I'm trying to embrace my masculine. I'm not knowing what that means, what that looks like. Don't know how to drop in my feminine. And so I was just a mess. And so yes, I had to learn to do both. I had to learn how to step into my masculine and lead from a place of power, not force. And that's that low frequency anger, chasing, forcing things, because force negates. So coming from a place of grounded masculine power, healed power. So I
mm.
really did work on that, and subsequently also almost tandemly doing the same time, dropping into my feminine and learning how to be vulnerable, how to listen to my intuition, that feeling that I've had, but didn't know how
Yes.
to do it. Not
Mm,
let my masculine mind, logical mind, override what I was feeling, and to drop into that. And and I tell you what, as a man, that was nerve wracking to go there, because what if a woman were to see me in that space?
mhm. Wow.
And I got to show up strong. I got
Right.
I got I got to lead the way. And hold on. When a woman, as I've now learned, sees a man that can drop into his feminine and be vulnerable and be honest and be real, that is strength. That is
Mm,
masculine power. And to be
mm.
able to embrace that has been an incredible gift for myself, my children, for the woman I'm dating. Like it's been
Wow.
an awesome gift.
Cletus, I'm so grateful for your example of arriving at this place. If you were to give two to three different steps, practices, books to someone listening who really wants to cultivate this, what would you say? And obviously, you've got your business, which is so dedicated to coaching men in this regard. For both men and women who want to cultivate a better sense of love for themselves and just know how to drop into both. What are some practices or books, principles?
Yeah. So the first thing I'm going to circle back to the scoreboard because we are human beings. And on the human dimension is where the scoreboard lives. And that's where most of us are operating in this 3D world is on that human dimension. Okay. So we think that on the human dimension, which is our businesses and our money and our relationships and all our houses, that's where we can cultivate fulfillment and joy and love. The problem is it doesn't exist there. And for men in particular, we try to find love in those things and it doesn't exist there. It exists in the being, which, if you've ever read New Earth, Eckhart Tolle, if you
Oh, I
read
haven't
that,
read that. I've read
that
Power of Now, but
yeah, New Earth is awesome, and he talks about the being is in the vertical dimension, and
wow.
there is where the true and I love the example he gives. He says, "Look, at the end of your life, you're sitting on the table, you've transitioned. If the coroner were to cut you open, your body, where are you?
Mm,
You you're not in there. You're
wow.
you're you're an energetic being. That was your vehicle while you spent your time here on this earth. So that energetic being of us, that's
Mm,
where we can tap into fulfillment and joy and love so that we can actually enjoy the things on the human dimension. We can actually experience them for the first time, other than the pressure and the worry and the stress and the anger and the disconnect that often lives on that.
wow.
So,
Wow.
eyes off of the scoreboard, my friends. Lesson number one, eyes off the
Yeah.
scoreboard. You can't control it anyway.
Yeah. I
And
know. Stop
so,
being obsessed with it.
right. Yeah, let's put our focus on things we can control. That way, when we get outcomes that we can enjoy and we actually get to experience them in our relationships, we can actually experience our relationship versus the ups and downs, the chaos and stress and worry and all that. And of course, the New Earth is a good book to do that. And then another thing I would say is we have an incredible opportunity to show up as ourselves authentically. And what happens is when we show up as ourselves, it's going to do one of two things. It's or when we're either in a relationship or that could be a business or intimate, regardless. When we show up as our authentic selves, it's either going to trigger someone else
Mm,
or it's going to invite them to meet us
mm,
there. This is
yes.
where we become unstoppable. When I can show up in my power authentically as me, so that it it doesn't matter what you say about me. I've already
Mm,
said it.
yeah.
So
Yes.
you can get mad at me, you can get triggered, you could fly off the handle. That's on you because
Yeah.
I'm reflecting back to you the places where you're unhealed or
Mm,
where you haven't stepped into your power of authenticity. And so, my friends, when you are in those types of relationships, if you can, like, the key is you got to show up as you. It can't be a false sense of you. But if you show up
right.
truly, vulnerably, honestly, and that person gets triggered, but that's on them. That's that's their journey.
Mm,
That's their trauma. There's unhealings that's showing up. Or it can invite them to step into their power. And that's where business relationships, partnerships thrive when two individuals can come together. Not that there's not going to be conflict, healthy conflict, because I'm on my power in my true authentic self. Stand in your power, my friends. Be you.
I love it. Cletus, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you. Where can people learn more about you?
Yeah. So, Christine, thank you for the opportunity to share. I'm very uh, grateful to be able to share my story. If you go to cletuscoffey.com, and that's coffee is Coffey, cletuscoffey.com. I'm at Cletus Coffey on all social channels. Would love to connect with anyone listening that just wants to share stories or whatever. Would love to
Mhm.
connect. So thank you for the opportunity.
Love it. Appreciate